All right, welcome to another video. Just got a few things I want to talk about in this video on my journey that when I was held capture for 500 some days for no fault of my own. It was just something that happened that was really not preventable to a point, but it could have been if they just listened to what I was saying, and I was not the only one that was saying what actually was going on. But it just took them 500 some days to realize, hey, what he's been saying is actually what happened. So let's let him get back home. It was just crazy. I just cannot wrap my head around of their stupidity, of lack of. I just don't know what words to use to describe. They just lack of, or they are just so determined to convict somebody, more concerned about that than it was to actually capture the person that actually did it. It's real sad to see that firsthand, literally see it firsthand. And I know I'm not the only one. But things like they have to put in place while they hold somebody there, rather they did anything wrong or not. It's like a mirror they have in your cell. It has a reflection, but it's in no shape or form of any kind of glass, which is understandable. They have to put some people in there when they start going or go fly off the handle because they can't handle the pressure of being there, regardless if they're guilty or not. They have to put them in um, solitaire. Um, they take everything out of a cell. It's it's same. It's in the same pod, and when I say pod, that means like pod A, B, and C. Like pod, say C has certain offense people in there, and it's got so many cell rooms in there. What they do is when somebody starts acting up, going off the handle, um, causing a lot of chaos and whatnot, and if the officers believe they are possibly a harm to themselves, they will take a cell that's vacant, strip everything that is not tied down out of the cell. The only thing they leave would be the little thin little mattress for the cot. That's the only thing they leave. Then they will put that individual in there. Then they will strip them or ask them to remove all their clothing. Then they will give them what I found that is called from the inmates, what they call them is turtle soup because it's green and it's got little squares on it and it looks like the back of a turtle. And that's all they have. And it's cushioned and they will stay in there for 3, 4 days in nothing but that. They eat, sleep, everything in that outfit, have nothing else in there at all. And I've seen a lot of people get put in that kind of a way because they were acting up. And that's usually the ones I saw after they got into the turtle seat, a turtle suit. They really started acting up. They will get up there and in the fire extinguisher little sprinkler up there, that has that little glass tube in there with red liquid. They'll break that out of there with their hand or whatever. So it'll set it off, flood the room, and usually to the point where the water will be gushing out of from underneath their door by the time they get to them, because they have to figure out which room it is that's actually doing it and all. And of course, that will put everybody in that pod on lockdown until all that's taken care of, all mopped up and repaired and all. So if somebody has rec time, which is like 2 hours for us to actually get out to watch TV, to take a shower, if your rec time is lines up with them doing the repairs or cleaning up, they don't postpone your rec time temporarily. You just miss it altogether until your next rec time. It's brutal in there for someone that is not guilty of what they're falsely accused of. I'm just glad that I'm a strong person, that I made it through and not give in to when they try to offer you lesser charge, so it will all be over with of you being in there, so they can go ahead and process and get you spending some time for nothing that you did. I'm glad that I'm strong enough not to just give in and satisfy them and putting another notch in their belt. Because if they did that, then that would be another person convicted of something they didn't do, and means the person that did it has never been charged or convicted of doing the crime. Even though that person never got charged, the person never spent any time for doing the crime. Sadly, but true. And they cannot charge him now, even if they had all the evidence, because that person is no longer living. It's just a sad thing to see that how the people in the system that's supposed to make the system work in the right way, the legal system is all messed up. And seeing people that's in place, attorneys and all, just not doing what they supposed to do. Even when I was on jury duty before, and we back there collaborating and discussing and deciding if this person should be found guilty, not guilty. Man, when I said that person should be found guilty because of what he did, because that was violating his agreement, parole, whatever it was at the time. So he should be locked back up for a little bit of time, at least, to show him that you just can't get out there and say, yeah, I agree not to do this, this, and you do it and expect that you're not going to get punished for it. Man, I had two people on that jury just, man, it just crucified me for even thinking of putting him back in jail. They try to blame it on somebody else. I'm like, I'm sorry, but he's the one that went and got the gun and the ammo and all, and went after them people after he was released on probation. Nobody else forced him to do that. I'm like, these people just insane. And you put all them kind of people together, and you have one legal system that is just screwed up. And when you're inside and sitting in your cell, things you see that you never hear about. I mean, some guys just there's probably some maybe some women in there as well, but we're in a different pod. They separate the men and the women. And nowadays, well, you got to figure out which one they are, which one they did. How do they go about that? Like if you're one but you identify as another, where do they put you? That's another whole show to talk about. Um, but yeah, some guys get put into the turtle suit, especially when there is a female guard walking around. Their shifts were every 12 hours. They'll come in and they will be there for 12 hours, and then the next shift will come in. So it's pretty much, I think it was around 6 o'clock or so is when the shift change was. So from 6 at night till 6 in the morning, there was a shift, and 6 in the morning till 6 at night was the other. And I tell you, every time there was a female on the rounds on the shift from 6 at night till 6 in the morning, do not prepare to get any sleep. People will in there will be banging on their doors every time the female walks by. Sometimes when they can just see the female walking around from cell to cell, and they'll just make all kinds of noise. You just not gonna get any sleep because it's not but cinder block walls, and whenever they bang on a wall, it just echoes and echoes, and you just can't get no sleep. I tried to put my pillow on one side of my head and wrap it around the back of my head to cover my other ear. You I tried everything in that period of time, and there was just nothing that would stop that sound because it's like sticking your head in a tin can and then somebody take a spoon and just tap on the outside of it. It's just ear piercing noise that was just unbearable at times. And they will take them and put them in another room in the turtle suit. But it didn't change really about the noise because there's a metal door there, and they will be banging on that one too. Maybe even it frustrates them to the point where they would do it even more than they were before they got in that room. But there's really nothing they can really do to stop the noise because I've asked a few guards at the time when they came by at night. There's not really much things for the guards to do except paperwork, in which that's down the bottom floor. You can see them just sitting there doing paperwork. And sometimes they will stop at people's cells and chat a little bit. The ones that don't want to act up. And they came by my cell, and they just stop sometimes and just say, "Hey, how you doing today? How's your day? Anything I can do to help you? Anything you need? You know." And just stand there for 10 minutes and just chat about whatever. And it was nice to get that human kindness of interaction with some of the officers. Not all of them were stopped. Some of them were almost like robots. They didn't like, I'm the officer. You're gonna listen to me. You're gonna do what I say to do. They don't. None of them were that way. Some of them were just like strictly nothing but their requirements, and that's what they did. They don't stop and chit chat, with anybody. They just like whatever their duties were, that's what they did, and then they went home. But there were a few, I think about three or four of them, that was willing to just stop, come tap on your window of the room and say, "Hey, how you doing?" You get up, walk over, and chat with them for a little bit through the door. They wouldn't open it, and talk about any and everything. Like something that's in the news that you saw on the TV, and you ask about it, and they can tell you more about it because they, have access to media and all. So just little things, just to make it like time kind of passes by a little bit easier. Take you mentally away from that environment just for that moment. But some guys in there just couldn't handle it. I've seen it where they act up, they get into turtle suit, they get out of the turtle suit, get back into their room. Then when the officers come and take them like to court, they act like nothing has happened, nice and kind, obeying what the officer asked them to do. Soon as their cell closes, they start walking, even though they're handcuffed with a chain around their waist, chained with cuffs from ankle to ankle at times, sometimes just the handcuffs on your wrist, behind your back. Every time they transport somebody from one location to another, some sort of um, confinement of chain and all handcuffs are involved. And some of them will take advantage of when they come out the cell, start swinging and hitting the officer to the point where some officers will pull out the tase gun and tase them and lay them out. I mean, it got to that point where they have to do that. It Talking about it is one thing, trying to explain it just, to someone is one thing, but actually seeing it, it's almost like I'm sitting there looking at this small TV screen and watching a movie. That just seems it can't be real. It's just a movie. But in all reality, it was actually happening. It's not a real good sight. It's a movie that I never want to see again. Now, of course, the way this world is, anybody can falsely accuse of another. And if the officers believe that accuser enough, well, that person's going to be held until things get straightened out. But it just should be a different chain of actions that they should take when they get, say, a person like me that has no criminal record. Should not have to go through that ordeal until after I have been found guilty. I should they should have a place for people to be confined, but not going through all that when they have not been found guilty or when they are not guilty in the first place. Because I can see where it can garnish and bruise and wreck somebody's life, the mental state of them, even if they are found or not even gone to court. As myself, I never went to court for any of it. I couldn't find anything to take me to court, just the false allegations of, oh, he did this. That was it. They'd done all kinds of investigation, forensics, trying to do DNA testing. I mean, all kinds of stuff. Came up empty handed on all. But they should have a place they can put people that is not so harsh on their well being before they get a chance to go to court and have to go through all that ordeal of that kind of environment. Because some people, even if they get released, go to court and found not guilty or just released, but after they went through all that, their state of mind just may never be right again. And in looking at it that way, they still getting punished for something they didn't do. For the rest of their life, they getting punished. They should have something in place to keep people have to be in that kind of environment until they are found guilty, then send them to prison, and then then they be around that kind of environment. Or that and have some kind of program, therapist, whatever it would take for people that's been there for quite some time, over maybe 6 months, maybe 6 months or more, sitting and waiting and never go to court or going through it and then found not guilty, should have some kind of course that they offer and say, hey, you've been found guilty. I know you've been in this harsh environment. Here is a card that you can call and sit and talk if you have issues of being here in this kind of environment that has taken a toll on your mental state. But they don't have any of that. And I actually asked. I said, what if all this really damages somebody's well being of mentally and they just can't handle it after they get out? They can't hold a job or, be friends with family and other people like they normally would and have been in the past just because they were in that environment for no reason other than they were falsely accused or found not guilty. And they said, we don't have any programs like that. That's really sad because there is an issue that is occurring for, with people in that state. I'm just glad I'm strong enough that I don't have to worry about it. I can just brush it off and move on. Now, I think about it from time to time. That's one of the reasons why I made this channel and I wrote a book to tell my story as the memories come back from time to time. You'll hear me talk about something, and maybe 5, 6 videos later, I may mention it again because it just comes back for some reason. Some events that happened when I was there just comes back more often than the others. But if you want to read and really get more in depth of my journey when I was falsely accused, consider going to your major bookstore, Barnes and Nobles and all, Amazon, and pretty much about any other bookstore would be able to get you my book. It's not a real thick book in a lot of pages. It's like 150, but I go in detailed of how I got in, why I got in, how I made it through it, and how I got out of it, and what I did when I got out. I hit the highlights as much as possible. I try to have it written to the point where you read that this happened and then it tells you about it, but then it tells you about something else in the mix that makes you want to read a little bit more to find out the next thing to happen, and so on and so on. Really kind of a attention grabber. And then before you realize, you've read the whole book. I've had people tell me that they read the book 3 or 4 times and they got something new out of it every time. That means the book was written very well, and it's getting my point across of how messed up the legal system is. Things that people will do to abuse a system, regardless if they're in jail or prison, whichever it may be, or out here in the world, free as a bird. They will use and abuse the system to benefit themselves. I've seen that happen out here in the world, and I've seen it right in there between the concrete walls. Just the little things that people do to trigger to get what they want. They will fill out a form saying they have a visitor just to get out of their cell and go to the visitor room or visitor window and sit there for, I've seen some sit there 20, 30 minutes. It depends on how long the officer that's on duty that makes that call lets them sit there, but it's always like 15, 20 minutes at least just to get out of their cell, knowing good and well that there is no visitor. There was not going to be one, there isn't one, but it gets them out of their cell for that little bit of time to just get out of the cell. It would they will do that just to get out of the room, which I can understand some of them that when they did it, um, because their mental state was really getting to them, because some of them would do that. And I even asked when I said, "What's going on with all your visitors that not showing up?" I said, "I'm not trying to get personal. We got on good talking terms." And he said, "No, I don't have no visitors." He said, "My family won't come see me, but I put a request saying they are just to get out of the room for that little period of time." And they can put in a request like once a day, twice a day, and some of them will take advantage of it just to get out of the room. I've seen some that will take food and keep it in their room. Something like that will like spoil quickly, and they'll have it for 2 or 3 days. Yes, their room will be searched, but not every day or every 5 days. Just they pick rooms randomly to search. And of course, they probably have some kind of system in place of which room they're going to search next and when, and have a reason why. I don't know. Because I don't think they just going to randomly just pick one and say, okay, we're going to do this one and do this one. Because if they do that, eventually some rooms will never get searched because they don't recall which ones they actually have searched in the last few days. So they're bound to have some kind of system and a reason why they search each one at a particular time. Maybe they will, maybe something that would trigger to search somebody's room in the next 2 or 3 days if they were taken out of their cell, went to court, and come back. Just be sure they didn't somehow grab anything to bring back to their cell. Any little thing like that could trigger that system to check their cell because there's a possibility that they can gotten something somehow and put it in their room. And as I was mentioning about getting some food and keeping it in the room for a few days and let it spoil, then they'll eat it to get sick to get out of the room again. Sometimes for longer because they have to go to the infirmary, and it's probably just like any other doctor that you go to out here in the world. Sit and wait. That sitting room, the lobby. You just sit and because they have their whole community, which is all the cellmates that they have to look after. And if there's a few in there, of course, you're going to have to sit and wait. That means that person gets to stay out of their cell for X amount of minutes and maybe hours. Because I've seen some sick and they don't come back, until hours. And sometimes I don't see them till the next day. At moments when their AC and heat system malfunctions and just pretty much just blasts cold air. I mean, it's like somebody set the thermostat to 50 degrees and just let it ride. And sometimes it'll blow for 1 day, 2 days. I mean, 24/7, not just, for 5 or 6 hours here and then five. I mean, on air condition and just let it run for 3 or 4 days to the point where they had to hand out extra blankets, quilts, so we can actually get some sleep because it was so cold. One quilt was and a sheet was not enough. It was no weight to it to, hold out warmth underneath. And they got so upset when some of the people in there would block off the vents to keep air from going in there. And they come in there and look up there and see if you got the vent. And they'll like point at it, like uncover it, take all that paper off. Because it was like a wall and the vent was made into the wall. Instead of having a grill, they have like if you take a drill bit and just drill little holes, you draw a square on there and then just put, little holes all over it, and that's how the air came through. Some of the guys in there got kind of smart and took their toilet paper and got it wet and made little spitballs and started filling them little holes to the point where all of them were closed, some of them were closed. Whatever they felt was going to make them not so cold, they covered them. But they will come in there and tell you to move it. And there's some in there that they actually had to go in there and do it themselves. Um, have them to come out of the cell, sit to the side until they get all the paper down, whatnot. It was a rat race in there. It is, but it was nice that when I got some cash on the canteen, and that when I say canteen, if you don't know what that is, it's a machine in there where you can order stuff, notebook, tissue, pens, pencils, where you can, and envelopes where you can actually write letters, stamps, and all that. And when I started getting that money on there, I started thinking, what do I really need? Anything at all on the canteen? Well, only thing I got on the canteen was notebook paper, envelopes, stamps, and a radio. Once in a while, I got a small little bag of um, candy. I got, what was, can't remember what it was called now. It's some kind of like an oval shaped candy, and they call it lemon drops, I think it was. Every now and then I get one of them because it gets kind of cool in there. Every now and then my throat kind of starts getting a little scratchy, like it is now, because I foolishly try to do some installs for some people just to try to get them to be satisfied and get them to quit texting me. Pouring down rain, walking in the rain, that was standing water 2 or 3 inches. My shoes were got soaking wet. My socks got soaking wet. My feet was soaking wet. And just like always, when that happens, I get a little scratch on my throat, and I just have to just baby it, drink my coffee, which smooths it right out. That's why I'm love coffee. That's another benefit. But try to make them nice and happy. And not only it was raining and windy, I had a radio programmed and it didn't want to work, so I had to put up a temporary one. I told them, I said, you can have internet for free for a week. And they still want to, I told them it's going to come in, it's not going to give you maximum speed. It's going to give you at least 75% of the speed because it's just not set up properly. But you have internet and you don't have to pay for it for a week. And them fools still want to call and complain about it. It hadn't been but 24 hours. Like, you're not paying for it. Leave me alone. And it's Sunday. Text me. I was, it was just crazy. But you'll see that on my other channel, Entrepreneur Box. I got so frustrated. I was trying to make a video and it was raining. I'm like, no, I made 3 video clips equaled up to about 5 minutes total. And I just deleted them because it's just like, I can't keep making the clips because I'm trying to get in there and get out of there. And I just can't make a video because it's just frustrating. I want to concentrate on getting it done, get it connected, and just get the out of there. And that's exactly what I did. It's crazy how people complain even when they're getting stuff for free. Like they can't get enough. But that's what happens when you deal with public. But you'll see that on Entrepreneur Box channel here on YouTube. But I got to go back this week and finish that. But don't want to talk about that here. But still talking about that relates to how some people are in this world. Never can do things that will make them happy. Don't matter what you do. Give them free stuff. They still want to complain. And I told them, I was like, I'll be there during business hours, Monday through Friday. But enough for that. But that's what I want to put here on this video and talk about things that came to mind this week, past week, that I jotted down like I always do. So I can put something together and make a video out of it to talk about my experience in 512 days. And you know that feeling you get when you have nothing to do when you're around the house and seems like time just stands still. Don't matter, it just stands still. Well, try it for 500 some days when you don't have nothing to do except sit in a 8 by 15, 8 by 16 room maybe. Day in, day out, and get out, maybe get out for rec time. Drive you nuts. I'm just glad I'm a strong person that I can actually mentally block all that and make it through for the next day. It's crazy how this legal system is all messed up. When I see somebody on the news saying somebody just got released because they were found that they were not the one that actually admitted or did the crime, and they've been in there for 20 years plus, and they found evidence that it was not them, my heart goes out for that person. 500, 500 some days is nothing compared to that. There's no way to compare that whatsoever. But if you know somebody that's in there, and regardless if they're guilty or not guilty in your mind, show them support and go visit them so they can make it through, regardless if they are going to be found guilty or not guilty. But if you know they're innocent, but they got there anyway, even more go visit them to keep them from going on the deep end. So when it's all over, they can come back home and try to live the best normal life that they can as they were before. It's a crazy world. It don't matter if you're inside or the outside. But the way this world's been for the last few years, since 2020, I don't know if it's worse out here or worse in there. Because it's getting bad out here as much as it is in there. Something's got to change. Thank you for watching. Consider subscribe, like, comment, and share. Leave your comments below. I'll read all of them. This is not a real big channel. If it never grows, fine. But eventually, some people are going to see these videos somewhere in the future. And hopefully it helps somebody. So until next time, whichever it may be, if things come to mind, that I can make a video, it'll be more than just once a week. I got the studio set up a little bit more now with more equipment, so I can actually produce more videos on a mass scale for all the channels and the live radio station show, podcast, and all. Look in the description and you'll find a link to all of them. Until next video, thank you and have a wonderful day.